thanks again to everybody for showing up today. So it's actually a really fantastic turnout given the conditions out there. We weren't too sure what it would look like. This is very, very great, so thanks again for making the effort. I'll be talking about a few things today, give you a little bit of market update, go through a little bit of crypto and cannabis, provide an update on the personal information forms, a little bit about accounting, since this is accounting firm here, and then talk a little bit about our growth accelerator as well. So TSX Venture Exchange, I got two slides, one for Venture, one for TSX, and it's the tale of two stories basically. Venture, very difficult year, 2019. TSX was actually pretty darn good. So for the Venture Exchange, on the right hand side there, number of listed issuers, there's no real change in that. Total market cap of 45 billion, no change there year over year. The average market cap, it's up a little bit. And financings, I was made a slight error there. Instead of 3.2, it's 4.2 billion raised for the year, which is still, that's down 40%. So that's not a surprise to any listed issuer in the marketplace here with cannabis dropping off and just transactions difficult to finance. Talking with a few of you before this, providing that feedback still. If you're looking for 3, you can raise 1.5, but getting that extra 1.5 is tough. If you're looking for 5, you can get 2.5, but the extra 2.5 to get the milestone's tough. So there obviously is financing happening, 4.2. So 2 billion of that's been generated generally out of Vancouver for a lot of our issuers here. So it is happening, but it's tough. New listings, again, that number 139, it's down year over year about 30%, and that's sometimes new listings are up because say a lot of CPCs are getting formed, or they're down a lot because there's not that many CPCs being formed, so clean shells to be done for new deals moving forward. This one's just a smattering across the boards. Reverse takeovers, initial public offerings, CPCs, they were all down about 30%. In terms of trading, again, I'm the director of venture for Vancouver, so I'd love to stand up here and say, hey, everything's rosy, but again, the trading, it's down too. So in terms of value, it was down about 40%, and in terms of volume, it was down about 25% as well. The one sort of, diamond in the rough there ties into our Venture 50 winners. So we have a program, Venture 50, it recognizes our top 10 issuers in each sort of 5 categories, so mining, oil and gas, clean tech, and then sort of diversified. So we had a really good year this year for graduations, and I'll touch on that in a slide or two. Sorry, just before I go back there. On the pie chart on the right there, I just wanted to mention, so for mining, it's, mining is, we are seeing signs of life there, having a lot of pre-file on mining transactions, generally gold companies and some uranium, and then also mining companies in the royalty space as well, looking to do royalty type transactions. The technology bucket here, 10% on the bottom left there, that's our number 2 sector now. That's overtaken oil and gas. Oil and gas has dropped to basically our 3rd sector. CPCs are in there, but that's not, that's just a new companies getting created there without a business. So on the energy sector, they're obviously down, and that's, you'll see on the financing side coming up, it's pretty dramatic as well. On the Toronto Stock Exchange, it's looking, as one would expect for a senior market, more stable. The real major win here is in terms of the total market cap there, the $3.1 trillion market cap in terms of the issuers. That's up 20% year over year. So it's been a fantastic year for the index for Toronto stock, for TSX stocks. The number of listed issuers, generally that's up 4%, which is a big swing as well. And then the rest of the numbers, the average market cap, it's up 300 million. So it went from 1.7 billion average to 2.0 billion. And so that's a big 300 million average uptick there. Financings, average financing, new listings, no real change in there in terms of numbers there year over year. And then on the trading side of things for that market, it is down, but slightly, sort of 7% in volume, and 7% in value, and 12% in volume for trading. So just going back to that graduation activity. So for the venture, if you see, venture actually has an index, and it's a difficult index because it doesn't reflect the true success stories that we have. When we graduate a company from venture to TSX, it leaves the venture index. It would be great if that venture index tracked all of our graduations, because they go on to be pretty big companies in some cases on the TSX. So you can see the pattern there. We're up 75% in terms of graduations. So there was a big jump in terms of moving companies up from venture to TSX. 8 of those companies were graduates. Of those graduates were past Venture 50 winners as well. So the big arrow there, just, that's just saying that over time we've had 674 graduates to TSX from the venture, and there's some pretty big numbers there. 133 billion of equity capital has been raised by those graduates since 2000, and in the tech sector, $22 billion. So 22 of the 133 was raised by tech issuers, and that kind of ties back to our first slide there, where the tech sector is growing in Vancouver. You've got Google, Apple, Amazon, all building offices in Vancouver, and that's really, we are starting to see the Vancouver, entrepreneurs trying to look at taking offshoots of that technology business public. So we're seeing a lot of AI business trying to get listed right now. Threat detection software, Patriot listed with us. They've graduated up, they're doing well. So there's offshoots of that. Others trying to sort of rinse and repeat that kind of sector, some sort of different technology tied to that. And then also just healthcare too. Well Health, they listed with us not too long ago, maybe say 2 years ago. It came on basically in the 20 to 30 cent range. It's now up around $1.40 kind of thing. So Hamid Shabazi's running that one. He turned his tech expertise with TO Networks there. He's now running Well Health. So we're just seeing offshoots into that sort of healthcare sector as well. So there's a lot of charts on this one. I think one common theme we'd seen there, and this is what this is basically, financings between 2014, 2018, and 2019. And so in 2018, that was the cannabis year basically, and that's where those big spikes are for life sciences. And a common theme we actually heard was, cannabis stocks can get financed, but the mining companies couldn't finance at that point in time. But at that same period where financing's obviously poured into life sciences, on the left hand here, on the mining stock there, it was up just as much, if not more, than the cannabis sector. So I guess rising tides float all boats, and that's where the financing is. And then you can see for 2019, obviously it's pulled back in cannabis and it's pulled back in mining, but not to the same degree, because we are seeing sort of a shift of some of those profits making its way back in there. Obviously, Eric Sprott's also been a good shot in the arm for a lot of mining companies, putting $20 to $50 million bets down on 5 to 10 different companies, and so that's bringing eyes back to the sector as well. In terms of geographic makeup, this slide's as at July, so the themes that come out of it are pretty consistent for the full year. One of the new jurisdictions showing up there, Israel, it's got a little blue line in there. We've had 9 listings out of Israel this year. 4 of those are CPCs, but we've had 5 businesses list as well in 2019. So we've got a lot of issuers coming through out of Israel, and that's because we actually have a person on the ground in Israel doing business development for us. They're actually going to be hiring a second person over there. There's a good basis for new listed issuers over there. They were generally going straight to NASDAQ, but I think they've seen the track record of pulling those companies over to North American markets and accessing the US that way. So there's a decent pipeline building there. In terms of US activity as well, so on the far right hand side, it looks pretty flat there, but again, this is as at July. So for that gray bar, that's 2018 being 66 listings from the US. We've pulled over, at year to date, we're higher, not year to date, but at July, we were already measuring the same number there. So we've got a lot of activity coming through as well. In terms of evolution of the TSX Venture Exchange, so on the left-hand side there, that's the number of issuers, and on the right-hand side, that's the market cap. So, and basically you go from 2014, mining space was 73% of the venture component in terms of number of issuers. That's now at 62%, and the technology space has gone from 13% in 2014 up to 19%. So again, a growth in the tech sector. And similarly, the market caps, they've gone from 18% to 27% in technology. That's the light blue color up there. And then the mining space, it's gone from 54% of the overall market cap down to 47%. And that's not necessarily a decrease in the value of the issuers. It's a shrinking of the number of issuers in the mining space, and then a redeployment of that capital in the other sectors. So crypto and cannabis. Crypto's been kind of quiet for a little while. We are seeing crypto companies list with us, but it's more using blockchain as software as a service type business. It's not the digital mining company. That is definitely drastically reduced. Although we did have one new listing in November that is a crypto miner in that space. But HUD 8 is actually the first crypto miner that we listed on Venture. It's graduated to TSX, and it went via the TSX Sandbox program, which is a new program to help companies get listed on TSX. Then on the cannabis sector, obviously there's been some consolidation in the market. Financing's been tough. And what we've been seeing out of that, the Ontario retail rollout had a big impact on that. It affected the sales, so there was a lot of inventory as compared to sales. Some companies, they had 33 times the number of sales in inventory, so just a big problem there. Lots of inventory, can't move it. So that created cash flow problems for them, and then so that means that when they're trying to raise more capital, it affects their ability to raise capital on favorable terms. So overall, that's what we're seeing there. In terms of growth and the next step for these issuers, what we're seeing right now is diversification into the hemp space. We do have companies with sales into the U.S. of hemp, Farm Act compliant hemp, either product or CBD extracts from that. So that's the low THC stuff. Working with 2 issuers this week. They'll be putting out news releases later this week, saying that they're getting in that space as well. So we do have issuers into that space making those sales. And so a big win that we actually managed to get across to help the issuers in the room or potential directors and officers getting involved with those is that we used to ask for personal information forms to be involved with an issuer, and we still do. But we asked for those to be on file for a 36-month period, and if we didn't have one within 36 months, you had to go update. And so now we've extended that to 5 years, basically. So instead of 36 months, it's 60 months. So you can file a PIF once, and you're good for 5 years. And then if you get involved with other issuers, you can just file the 1-page, 2-page statutory declaration, and you're good to go for those issuers. That's great also for issuers that are trying to finance. Maybe they don't want to be a director officer, but they're going to be a 10% shareholder because they're coming in on one of your financings. We wanted to help companies, get the access to cash on a timely basis. So if you had someone that had a PIF on file 4 years ago, we would say, go get a new PIF. That would add delays to the financing. Markets are turbulent. So maybe the money's there one day, maybe it's not the next day. So by extending it out to 5 years, hopefully it helps a lot of companies close on financings as well. And just to reiterate as well, in 2018 we actually automated the online PIF as well. So now you can have those people complete their personal information forms from around the world just through the online portal. Okay, for an accounting update, IFRS 16. When we're dealing with issuers that are looking to go public, there's a requirement for working capital. And sometimes what trips up companies, what we're noticing anyway, is that IFRS 16 requires your leases to be recorded as an asset and a liability, but it's a current liability, but a long-term asset, so that affects your working capital. So companies may come in thinking they need the $2 million financing to go on venture, but with the liabilities and whatnot, maybe it ends up working out to $2.5 million. So last minute, call for raising capital when you're trying to raise that last few dollars, we know is critical and tough. So just keep that in mind when you're preparing your working capital analysis for acquisitions or new listings. Growth Accelerator, it's a new program that we launched that we have staff dedicated to here in Vancouver. We hired a second person to help with this as well. And so basically what it is CEO selects a session of interest. We coordinate a time and place, and then one of our reps will come out and conduct about a 1-hour session for each topic. And there's 14 topics that could be chosen from, and it's absolutely free. And what we're actually finding is a lot of TSX companies are taking initiative in this and getting our guys to come out. So TD Bank's already asked for us to come out, and we've done that over there. There's another one coming next week, and they're sending 50. They're bringing in people from across the country for this public company. They're gonna have 50 people in the room, and we'll facilitate all 14 sessions with them over a 2-day period. And again, it's all free. So what does this cover? covers corporate governance, disclosure, investor relations, trading, and follow-on transactions. So basically, principles of good governance, building an effective board, disclosure requirements, IROC's role regarding disclosure. For investor relations, it's the top 10 best practices, tracking and targeting surveillance, board reports, conducting a successful AGM. And then for the follow-on transactions, it's post-listing transactions, declaring dividends, initiating a normal course issuer bid. Those are generally more for our TSX companies, but we do have some venture companies that are paying dividends. And then for trading, there's the trading basics, understanding your trading. So anonymous trading, we can help walk you through that process. And then the role of a market maker as well. So TSX, again, they need market makers for their stock versus venture. Some do, but most don't. So anyway, that's free. Arnie Goldstein is our senior relationship manager here in Vancouver. He's happy to sit down with you guys and go through whatever you may choose from that. There are some brochures on this out in the lobby, so when you're having a drink, if you're interested, please pick it up. If not, just send an email and I can happily connect you with that for those sessions. So far the take up, like I said, it's been about 60% TSX issuers, 40% venture, but I also think it's because sometimes venture issuer email addresses change fairly fluidly, so we're just trying to get the word out to the venture issuers too. And then in supporting your growth, there's a lot of going public, starting out, tools for success and standing out services that we offer there. Won't go through all those. What I do want to reiterate is Market One. I'm not sure if you've used them before or not. They've built a studio here in Vancouver, and they've built sort of 3 different pods to it. One of which is dedicated to TSX Venture Issuers for for CEO interviews, basically. And so we can happily connect you. Instead of a service we have offered over the past is when you go to Toronto, we can happily do CEO interviews, so you can use that in your promotional materials. We can now do that out of Vancouver. You don't have to travel for that. Again, if you're interested in that, Arnie is basically coordinating most of that, and Monica Ham as well. But if you want to get that introduction process underway, please send me an email. Happy to connect you for that as well. And so Arnie's information is up there too, but again, it's pretty easy to connect everybody if you're looking for that.